Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Rivals of Aether 2. I made a pre-patch tier list before the patch came out, and there's a couple of things that I definitely want to change, just as the meta has evolved as well. But before we get into this tier list, I want to make it very, very clear that every single character in this game is viable. Even the one that is clearly the worst character in the game, in my opinion, I still think that you can make work at the top level because the tools are strong enough, but relatively, it's going to be a lot harder. And the worst character in the game is going to be Orcane. I'm not going to throw you any curveballs here. He is still very bad, even after the nerfs or the slight buffs that he had with the bubble multiplier. But I still think that you can make this character work. This character still has a very difficult neutral to navigate, and he's also incredibly strong if you are competent, meaning that you're actually able to use back here consistently. But it's honestly not that hard to do. He's got a lot of different ways to set up to it, and that move is incredibly strong. He's also got a lot of different ways to set up into his strong attacks. His combo game is really good. I think Orcane is a character that is just extremely difficult and also happens to be the worst character in the game, and that's why you're just seeing that combination of, oh my god, he's actually horrible. But in reality, yes, he is the worst, but he's not significantly worse than everyone else. It's just going to take a little bit more time and prowess to actually make him work. Next up is going to be Fleet, and the buffs really helped her in my opinion, especially the one that gave her a little bit more float time. They cut that by way too much, gave her a little bit more kill power as well in some rooms, specifically up strong off the top of my head. There's a middle hitbox for that now, so hopefully Fleet will be able to kill more consistently. But Fleet players are taking this character for granted, absolutely, because the initial, kind of Fleet having success is she would hit you once, the edge guard would blast on you. You would just die from that initial edge guard. Now that initial edge guard isn't going to kill you, but Fleet is still the best edge guarding character in the game. She just needs to learn the flowcharts of these other characters so she can consistently edge guard people. And as it stands right now, Fleet players just aren't able to do that, so they aren't able to kill people, because Fleet is not a character that's trying to blast on people. She's a character that's trying to edge guard people, and I feel like people are not really understanding that, you can still be a good character that doesn't have amazing kill power if you can just completely stop your opponents from getting to the wall. Now, are you going to be an amazing character? No, absolutely not, because you have a major win condition that relies on your opponent being somewhere on the stage, versus every other character in the game, like Ronald, for example. He could just hit an up strong and you're going to die. So that is why I still think Fleet is definitely a weaker character, but she still has some amazing strengths. You just need to go in on her edge guarding. It's really important that you capitalize on that as the Fleet player. And also, I think Fleet's movement is kind of crazy. Obviously it is, you have float, but also in combination with ledge canceling up B, you can do some crazy stuff around the stage. So Fleet, I still think she's a very good character, definitely underrated. And if you're a Fleet player, do not give up on her. Just figure out how to edge guard people. It's not that hard. Next up is going to be Loxodon, and in my last video, I made a really big point about how Loxodon's recovery is a really big weakness for the character, except for when he has Magma, because Magma actually gives him a lot more potential off stage. Now, even without Magma, he still has down B as a stall off stage, which is pretty good. That's something that I definitely didn't give credit to in that initial video, but Loxodon's recovery is horrible without Magma. You should never really be getting back to the stage against a competent player, because they're either just going to spike your side B or just grab the ledge on your up B or parry the up B and then hit you when you are coming down. It's just a very easy move to counter. But when you have the Magma, you just have this sudden burst option, especially if you have full charge Magma that also gives you a double jump. That just makes Loxodon so much better. And that small buff just so the Magma is on the ground pretty much ensures that Loxodon has Magma at this point. So he's almost always going to have that little mix up in the air, even if it's just the first charge of down B, just using that as a quick universe to just go the other way and then jumping back in so you make the opponent whiff. Just something like that could be so helpful for Loxodon. And Loxodon's advantage state is very strong. Up throw is one of the craziest throws in the entire game, especially considering that you can chain that with Nair 1. Up tilt as well is very strong as a combo tool. They all confirm, or not all of his stuff, but lots of his stuff confirms in a neutral special, even though they made that a little bit harder to confirm into back air as well, is very good. His smash attacks are huge, even though they aren't the strongest without the Magma, but again, you usually have the Magma now, and when they have the Magma, those smash attacks, or strong attacks, I should say, are very good. So I think that very small Magma change to Loxodon actually helped him out a ton, just because he pretty much always has at least some Magma now, so it gives him that little bit extra burst range, as well as making his smash attacks a little bit better, which isn't as big of a boon, but it definitely helps. Also, really quickly, I just want to add, I also think the Meatball is a really good tool for Loxodon. He just has so much control over it. Almost all of his moves are going to be sending it at a slightly different angle, so it really is just wherever you want it to be as a Loxodon player, just being in this space of pressure, which I think is really, really strong for him, especially considering that he doesn't have the fastest approach speed. So just also wanted to point that out. Moving on to the B tier, and again, every single character in this game is viable, but some are a lot more viable than others, and I'd say that definitely starts off in the B tier, and the first character in that B tier is going to be Claren. Now, obviously, in theory, if you just only hit tippers with Claren, you're just going to win every single match that you play, but even without tippers, she still has some pretty decent combo stuff, mainly up air as a non Tipper combo tool is incredible just to link into itself or something else after that up air. Down air as well. Weak down air just pops the opponents up perfectly into the air for really anything that you want as the Claren player. Weak up tilt as well, though that definitely depends more on DI from the opponent. But Claren, even without Tippers, got some pretty decent stuff. And then with the Tippers, obviously your combo routes and damage output is just insanely high. Fair 1 is such an amazing tool as well that I feel like people are finally starting to utilize a lot. Just putting the opponent, it's like such a distance away from Claren where she's able to get either a grab or a forward strong or another fair 1 if she wants, a back air, just again, really anything that you want as a Claren player. And that's like the best thing about Claren is the creativity that you have with her. There's no like correct Claren combo that you have to take just because if you hit a stun, the combo is still going, and that's all that really matters. So Claren is a character that I think isn't fully figured out yet, and I could see her rising on the list, but the reason that she is lower right now, even with those theory aspects, is going to be the fact that I think her neutral is significantly weaker than pretty much all of the other characters in this game, and that's just because she doesn't have the frame data to really keep up with them. Like, yeah, she has this awesome sword, and something like Jab. Jab is an amazing neutral tool, just really difficult to deal with, and if you run in too eagerly and you get hit by it, then you're going to be put in a terrible spot, especially by the Tipper, mainly by the Tipper, of course. But it's really easy to whiff punish, as most characters are in this game against Claire, at least in my opinion it is, and I think that is her big issue in the neutral. But outside of that, in the advantage state, she's an amazing character. You have so much freedom as the Claren player, and I think she's only going to get better from here. Next up is going to be Craig, and the nerfs hit Craig really hard in my opinion, but I also just think that throughout the course of the game, Craig was just going to get worse, and this normally happens to heavy characters just as everyone else figures out their punish game, which are usually longer combos than what heavy has. It's easier for heavies to figure out their early stuff. They're just going to be hitting not only harder, but a lot easier because it's just easier to combo on a big body heavy than it is on a smaller character. So because of that, I do think that Craig is not getting outpaced in terms of damage, but he's starting to be matched a lot more consistently with damage. And they made his disadvantage state a lot worse in the most recent patch, specifically that nerf to side B, like the landing of the special attack side B where you kind of jump forward with the rock. I think that took a really significant nerf that just makes it such a worse landing tool. And it makes it so that going for the pillar a lot more is the better option, but going for the pillar sometimes puts you in a really terrible spot. So it makes the Craig player think a lot more when they're recovering instead of always just going for that jumping side B, which was a really strong option before. And Craig is still a very good character. Let's not get it twisted. He's still got some of the best killing in the game, but moves like back air, which were neutral monsters before, and also amazing kill confirms, still act as kill confirms, but they're just not as easy to find. Down special as well is no longer going to be that absolute nightmare move that it was, because that move was just like way too overtuned in the air. The fact that you're able to combo that into a down air as well, combo it off of a neutral special. They also made neutral special a little bit worse. Again, it's still good. You are still able to combo the rock into itself, but the percent windows for that are a little bit different now. Your timing is a lot more precise, and basically that's kind of what they changed with Craig. You can still do some of the BS that you were doing before, but in order to do so, you have to be extremely precise. A lot of the leniency was taken away, and it's also a lot easier to capitalize on punishing Craig himself. So now not only is he hitting less hard, but you should also be hitting him harder. Moving on to the A tier, our first character is going to be Forsburn. And again, there's a gap between A and B tier, but this one is like pretty small if I'm being honest. And the buffs definitely help Forsburn out, making it so his uppies a little bit better, making it so that the clone is a lot better, specifically the powered up clone is a lot better. Those changes absolutely help that character out, but I also just think the natural progression of Forsburn as a character would have gotten him to this middle point in the tier list. Like, he would have been below Claren and Craig without the buffs, in my opinion, but he will have been just slowly rising the tier list because this is a character with a very good combo game, some of the best combos in the entire game, and he is a character with some very good combo moves, specifically down strong, really strong, back air, really strong, down air, really strong, and the power up version of down B. And it's up to you as the Forsburn player to combo into those specific moves. Up strong as well is also an amazing tool, and it sweeps so far up above him as well, like pretty much covering entire platform. So Forsburn players have gotten a lot better at securing the stock with him just because they figured out how to actually confirm into those one or two really strong moves, whereas before you were just kind of relying on getting raw hits in neutral with them, which was way harder to do. So the natural meta of Forsburn, I think, has regressed a lot, where Forsburn players are very consistently now able to kill the opponents, and he already has an insane damage output. You have all of that deception with the smoke and the clone that I haven't even mentioned yet, and the powered up clone is also very strong as well. Like, if you get hit by the powered up clone at 0% and the Forsburn is close enough to capitalize, you might just take 80-70% or actually just die if the clone knows what it's doing there. Now, there's a little bit of variance there because obviously you don't have control over it, but still, the fact that that is a possibility just makes me think that this character is really good and only going to get better as people not only get better at controlling their clone, but they also get better at just confirming into that basic stuff, which they're already pretty good at. Next up is going to be Rano. Rano is really good. I think he has the best neutral in the game just because of how quick he is, plus darts is just such an insanely broken tool. He's also got amazing frame data on his combo starters, and they need to nerf forward air. And this isn't like that move is really good, they should nerf it. This is like the game is going to die if they nerf forward air. And I'm not even kidding. Like, this move is unbelievable. They tried to nerf it in the last patch, but they pretty much just buffed it by giving it a sour spot hitbox that good players are able to combo off of into the sweet spot hitbox. So they're just using it for positioning. Now, I still think overall it's probably a nerf because now you just always get that sweet spot, especially when people are like trying to recover and you're just edge guarding them. You just slam it out. It doesn't even matter. It's worse in that aspect. But in the neutral, it is still the same monster that it was. The sweet spot, you're immediately able, or the sour spot, you're almost always able to confirm off of, so it doesn't really matter when you hit it. And aside from that, Rondo's got some really solid kill confirms into his forward strong, into his up strong. Down tilt is still a really strong kill tool. Same thing with down strong as well, or not down strong, down throw into up strong, into down strong, forward strong, depending on the DI. And down strong is honestly a tool that I very much underrated with Rondo the first time I talked about it. It is so good, especially just for the tech chasing, and Rondo has amazing tech chasing. Again, some of the best in the game just because his mobility is up there and his smash attacks are so strong. I do think that Rondo's recovery is definitely a bit of a weakness just because people are getting a lot better at intercepting you when you go for side beat with the bubble, but it's just a small weakness. And aside from that, Rondo is a very good character. He's one of the fastest characters in neutral. Actually, he might be the fastest character on ground speed, but I wouldn't quote me on that one. So he's just really quick, or hard to catch. Rather, he's really annoying to deal with as well because you're constantly being pelted by needles, taking that poison damage. And when he gets his hands on you, his advantage state is ridiculous. So Rondo, very, very strong character. Please nerf forward air. Next up is going to be Zetterburn. And like Rondo, this is a character that I think also has an over-centralizing move, and that is going to be with Shine. Now, there is definitely counterplay to Shine, kind of unlike Rondo forward air, to be honest. If you crouch cancel Shine, you are usually going to be coming out on top there, and that's really strong counterplay against the move. But people seem to think that that makes Shine bad, which is so baffling to me. So let me explain to you why Shine is a really good move if I have to for some reason. So if Zetterburn does that initial Shine on your shield, let's say he wave dashes behind your shield, after that Shine, he then has the choice to go for another Shine, which is, instantaneous, and then wave dash out of it for pressure, or he can just jump or run away to disengage, or he can shield, or he can go for a grab, or he can go for another attack. Shine gives you the best mix-up in the game. Zetterburn has the best shield pressure in the game, and it is not close, and it will never be close until Shine is touched. And maybe they won't touch Shine. I don't think they necessarily need to touch Shine. As the counterplay just naturally gets better, people figure out more and more to crouch cancel it. They're getting better when he's actually going to be going for those openings. And as people also get better at edge guarding the character, I still think people aren't great right now just recognizing when the Zetterburn player is maybe going to be going for that down B cancel, which gives them a little bit more momentum forward. They're not really looking out for that, but when people are looking out for that, it's going to be a lot harder for those Zetterburn players to make it to the stage. So I think there is going to be counterplay that is just naturally developed against Zetterburn that will just make him lower on the tier list by himself. But I also wouldn't complain if they did a nerf to Shine because that move is ridiculous. And even without Shine, this character is still very strong. Back air is a very good combo tool that immediately puts fire on the opponent. And up strong is also the main choice of comboing tool for Zetterburn as well instead of up tilt. So people will do back air into up strong, into like an up air or a dash attack into up strong, and then you can reset people onto the ground with a downer as well. When fire is applied to people, you're reeling stocks at like 80%. Zetterburn is a very good character with an exploitable disadvantage state that I think people aren't great at exploiting yet, but he's like still broken. Moving on to the S tier, and I just want to make it clear that the gap between S and A tier is the smallest of any of the gaps. I just think that these two characters are clearly the top two characters in the game, and it's between them who the best one is, so I wanted to have them in their own tier, but number 3 is very close behind them. And our first character in that S tier is going to be Raster. And the nerf to downer is what makes him not the best character in the game, in my opinion, because that move was very over-centralizing. And to be honest, it kind of still is. You're able to combo it into itself, his other aerials as well. It spikes people off stage and on stage as well, but mainly off stage. We're going to be finding the spike value there. So downer, really good combo tool, but even without downer, forward air is just an amazing tool to combo into itself. You're able to ladder people off stage, and you have some of the best edge guarding in the game, really only rivaled by Fleet just because of how long Raster is able to stay out there. And he also has his strong attacks, which are so good because you're able to do those strong attacks really close to the blast zone. So Raster's strong attacks themselves aren't super strong kill-wise, but because of where you're doing them, they might be stealing stocks at like 80, 70%. And also, you don't really need to worry about stealing stocks with his strong attacks because up B is going to be doing that for you. And there's a couple ways to confirm into up B, but you only really need one if that move is going to be killing people at like 70% at the ledge. It is obscenely strong. And I think Raster is a character that really doesn't have weaknesses. His big weakness is going to be his weight. Obviously, he's the lightest character in the game, so it's pretty easy to kill him. I think that's an issue, but aside from that, I think Raster is just like kind of really strong in pretty much every aspect of the game, especially when he has the slipstream on the ground, just making him run a lot faster, his neutral a little bit better. Some of his tilts don't have the best frame data, I will say that. So grounded Raster, he doesn't have the quickest buttons aside from his jab, but that's like a really small weakness. We're kind of grasping at straws here. And our final character in the game, the best character in the game, is going to be Maple. She was my best character pre-patch, didn't get nerfed, so of course she's going to be my best character post-patch. Now, I do still think that the theory aspects of Maple are the strongest aspects of her in the re-wrap combos. The fact that you were just able to tech chase people effectively, infinitely, if you were good enough as the Maple player. And also the fact that you are so good at confirming the stock, just because if you hit people far into the blast zone and wrap is on them, you could just immediately follow them and continue that pressure. If it's off stage, you hit them with a nair, and even if they don't get blasted by that, they may be not able to recover. Now, there is a 50-50 if you get hit above Maple, where you are able to SDI out of up air, but still, it is a 50-50 that you are forced to be put into. Maple's strong attacks, I also just think, are pretty good. Down strong comes out like faster than you would even think, and super forward strong and up strong are super disjointed. Down special is kind of an annoying trap on the ground. It is definitely easy to mitigate, but if you get like put in a combo while down special is already on the ground, you're probably going to get set up into it and then hit for another easy confirm. So Maple is a character that I think is extremely difficult. You have to manage a lot of stuff. You have to make sure that you're hitting your wrap combos. You're mainly hitting your re-wrap combos. That's going to be the stuff where you're getting the true value. But if you're able to do that, she just seems like a character where you are never able to escape her pressure. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Sport has been absolutely unreal as of late. Let me know what y'all think about this tier list. I've been having a ton of fun with Rivals of Aether too. I know a lot of people on Twitter have been complaining about a couple things, and I do think that there should be a little bit of whiff lag added to some moves in this game. Certain moves absolutely needed, but to general, some moves in this game, I think that could absolutely help it. But I also think we are in a pretty good spot right now, and people are just being really dramatic. But again, I'm really curious what y'all think, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.